The Work and Pension Secretary Iain Duncan-Smith joins me now from our Westminster studio. Very good morning to you. Good news this morning.
Very good morning. Excellent news for jobs and excellent for those who have gone into work for the first time. 248,000 people now in work since the last set of figures. That takes us to something in the order of around about 2 million more people in work, 2 million more new jobs being created in the economy. And the key figures on this are not just the fact that we now have more people as a proportion in work than ever before. The figures this time round show those who are claimants on job seekers allowance, the main out of work benefit. That figure now shows that there are fewer claimants on that benefit than before the recession began back in some 2008. And finally, there are now more vacancies than there were back before the recession. So we've got actually not just a growing economy, more jobs, more businesses, but the key thing is that this now demonstrates, I think, to people that security of a job and a growing economy, without which nothing else can happen, no more spending on the health service, no more help and support for those most vulnerable. Getting that right, that plan, is about, from my sense, the Conservative Party staying in power as a Conservative government, getting that plan right for people who need that level of support, who have now better incomes, because the growth in incomes is some 2% for the private sector, but are 1.7% overall. And the key bit is inflation at 0.3 means people's wage packets are better, and our tax cuts for working people is actually helping them have more take-home pay.
76,000 new jobs, or at least people in jobs, is a great figure. But do you know how many of those jobs are zero-hour contracts?
Well, actually, we know that only about 2% of the population are actually in what is called zero-hour contracts. By the way, zero-hour contract is badly named. I don't know whoever came up with that idea. It should be named the flexible hours contract, because the people that actually use that contract are, for the most part, people who have caring responsibilities, students, people who can't guarantee hours, fixed hours over a series of weeks, but who are able, therefore, to flex their work and take the work as necessary. And we know two things about these flexible hours contracts. We know, first of all, that people who do them are more satisfied with their work-life balance than those who are in fixed hours contracts, interestingly enough, and that the average number of hours that they work is not, as some people say, tiny numbers. It's actually 25 hours work a week. So tiny proportion of the population involved in that, but overall, more people in work, more people have that satisfaction of security of a good wage packet that brings them and their families hope for the future.
Yeah, 2.3% of all people in employment on these contracts, whatever you want to call them, that's 697,000 people. The problem is, even though, as you say, many people would be happy with them, because they're not sure how much money they're going to have at the end of the month, they've got possibly less consumer confidence, they're not spending, and the economy, which needs to grow, which a lot of your plans are based on, may not grow as much as you hope it will because of these so-called contracts.
Well, no, I think, with respect, the media and others have got this completely wrong. The flexible hours contracts that I'm talking about, which are named zero-hour contracts, they are taken by people who want that flexibility. The reality is, what we've had from Labour is a series of scare stories about these. And let's be clear about this. If you didn't have those flexible hours contracts, many people who do caring responsibilities, many people who are students and others who cannot guarantee those hours. Let's take somebody who's caring for somebody. They might be able to do 20 hours one week. The next week they may be only able to do 5 hours because they're actually doing hospital visits and support. And then the next week they might be able to do 15. It's that kind of flexibility allows them to say, no, I don't want to take those hours. Yes, I can take those. We got rid of the exclusive business in this, got rid of it, so people now do not and cannot be bound by one company, and that was right. So we've actually changed that, and I think, therefore, this is good. But remember, let's get this in proportion. 2% of the workforce are in these contracts. The vast majority of people out there in fixed contracts. And let me say something about this. 60% of those jobs that have been taken are actually managerial level. 75% of the jobs gone out are actually full-time work, and over 60% are British nationals taking work, as opposed to what we inherited, 90% of the jobs being taken by foreign nationals under the Labour Party.
OK, let me ask you about the leaders' debate last night. Ed Miliband stole the show. David Cameron, nowhere to be seen. He's chosen not to take Ed Miliband on head-to-head. And it's played out in the polls very badly for the Prime Minister, hasn't it? The latest poll from last night put...
I don't know where you got this idea that Ed Miliband stole the show. The only thing he stole...
It comes out in the polls, doesn't it? 45% of those asked thought he should be Prime Minister, as opposed to 40% for the Prime Minister who wasn't there.
The reality is you're asking a question which was not based on anything that can be interpreted directly. Here there's a simple fact of life. Yesterday was about what the alternative is to the Conservative government with the Prime Minister. Everybody knows, and they've seen him over the last 5 years. He's faced interviews, he'll face more interviews. The reality is, though, what do they want to deliver? And what we saw, I thought, yesterday was quite revealing, was that those parties like Plaid Cymru, about the Scottish Nationalists and the Greens, will actually support a Labour Party in power. They'll be the ones to deliver a minority Labour Party into government, and their price for that will be what most of the Labour Party MPs want, as they showed through voting for further tax rises, voting always for more expenditure and more borrowing. Well, they are going to put at risk the economy. And remember, Christine Lagarde today from the IMF was very clear. She's not British. She runs an international body that is highly respected, and she has said the British economy is arguably one of the better performing economies in the world because British government has taken the right decisions. And we've seen that today with more jobs, more people in work. The long-term economic plan that we've set out, which is about stability and growth, that will be risked by that coalition of all of those on the left who actually want to run the economy like France is being run, where they are literally sitting with no growth and no jobs being created. And I think that's the choice that faces people election, the confusion and chaos of that group on the left, or a Conservative Party that governs for the majority of people, and particularly for those on the lowest incomes who will see their incomes rise directly this month.
Iain Duncan-Smith, thank you. Now let's get some business news now.